Welcome to A Victim Bites Back with me, Jonathan King. And looking this week at a play and a film, but more important matters to start with before we move on to Lady Bracknell and my friend Stephen Fry. Yet again, another case of miscarriage of justice, this time concerning somebody who was in prison for 38 years for a crime that he did not commit. This is so disgusting, but the worst thing of all is nobody gives a shit, apart from people directly involved with the person concerned, and nobody cares about the hundreds, if not thousands of other people still in prison unjustly for crimes they did not commit. Anyway, on to entertainment. Yes, that's a handbag. And I took the Bean and his Lady Mia and his brother Paul all to see Stephen Fry's Lady Bracknell in The Importance of Being Earnest, which has caption screens once a month. I've stopped going to the theatre because I'm so deaf now I can't hear any of the dialogue. But once a month, certain West End plays do have caption screens, which are very useful. I have to say, oddly enough, it was not necessary. The Importance of Being Earnest, everybody is very clear, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Stephen Fry is brilliant in it. Likewise, Ollie Alexander, who you can hear very clearly, is fantastic. After the show, which I thoroughly enjoyed, I felt reading it again that it was a bit dated, but actually watching it, it wasn't dated at all. It was thoroughly entertaining. I went and took the four of us, plus Stephen, out for a lovely dinner. The other thing I went off to see was a few days later at the cinema, which was the new Everyman Cinema, and a screening of Wicked 2, the most recent version of Wicked. I actually loved the first Wicked film. I'd never seen Wicked on stage, but I hated this one because it just, although it was filmed mainly at the same time, and the two girls who I thought were brilliant in the first film were all right in this one, but the problem with this Wicked for Good, Wicked 2, is it didn't feature the two smash hit songs from the first film, Popular and Defying Gravity, and I think they were the reasons I loved the first one so much. So this can be avoided. I went to it in the new Everyman in Whiteley's, just round the corner from me, which I've got to say is very luxurious with beautiful quilted sofa seats. It's very comfortable. You can order food at your seat from the menu. What nice shoes you've got, said the wolf. I enjoyed the experience of the cinema, and I'm very glad it's just round the corner, although the problem is they don't seem to have the interesting sort of movies I want to see on there. But it was nice, and I had my chocolate milkshake, and water arrived at my table and brought to me by a young lady. Had I so wished, I could have had an alcoholic drink, and there's a bar upstairs. It's all very comfortable. So yes, thoroughly enjoyed that, but didn't sadly enjoy the film at all, as it didn't have the two hits in it. In fact, I left early. But one of the things I did see was a trailer for a new movie called Song Sung Blue, which is featuring the music of Neil Diamond, and I think it's a story sort of vaguely connected with a couple of people who were Neil Diamond impersonators. I knew Neil when he was a young lad, as I was in the 1960s, writing songs, some excellent songs that he eventually had some hits himself, and he wrote hits for the Monkees group. And I covered one of his songs, Cherry Cherry, which I thoroughly recommend to you if you want to go on Spotify and hear my version of it. But he was very talented. We're reminded when I then saw on Graham Norton this young man called Sombr. Now, Sombr is the latest big thing, and he performed his new single, and it was awful, and he was awful. He couldn't perform properly, he danced around, but amazingly looked, I thought, very similar to Neil Diamond. and it made me start thinking about my time in the music industry and the way it has changed. After my forcible removal from the music industry globally back in the year 2000, various things happened, the main one of which was nobody was there any longer who could spot mass appeal hits, crossover hits, music that actually loads and loads of different types of people, racial people, sexual people, elderly people, young people, everybody else could love. Populist music disappeared because the record company executive discovered the only way to make money was to focus on a tiny little area of specialist fans and cater to them, making money from the marketing of t-shirts and posters and concerts and gigs and going to those sort of things, which is exactly what has happened. So these days, people are boosted, in Sombr's case, because he's a good-looking kid, by people who like the way somebody looks, but makes awful music, is a dreadful performer, has no mass appeal or crossover appeal whatsoever, but who cares? He's a cute kid and music is making millions. But there is very little, if any, crossover mass appeal music, which I think is tragic. It's become a luxury as opposed to what it was in my day, something essential and vital. See you next time round.